This is the movement and trajectory we would like to see with the float serve. There are 4 phases you need to be aware of and work on in order to be successful at a float serve. The 4 different phases are the preparation phase, the ball toss phase, the ball contact phase, and the follow-through. In the preparation phase for the serve, the server should stand in a position behind the line where the leg of the hitting hand is extended all the way and the front leg can either be slightly flexed or extended. Most of your weight should be on the back leg that is extended. The rhythm of your serve should be smooth, with synchronization between the forward motion of your body and the arm swing. You want a good amount of velocity on the ball, but an excessively fast arm swing can produce error or an inconsistent serve. The body is in a nearly erect position as the server prepares to lift the ball in the air. The ball is held with a flexed shoulder so it is parallel to the ground, slightly extended elbow, and supinated position of the forearm and hand of the non-hitting hand. The next phase is the ball toss. The height of the toss is critical. A low toss will cause errors due to the short amount of time that the ball is in the air. Due to that short amount of time, you have to take a faster arm swing than you are used to and will most likely mishit the ball. The ball should only be lifted to the height of where you will contact the ball, not any higher or lower. You want to toss the ball in front of your hitting shoulder in order to have good contact. If it is off to one side, you will be off balance and you will not be able to control the movement. You will be leaning over to whatever side and lose the momentum from your lower body to your arm swing. When you are tossing the ball, it should have no spin. It should be tossed slightly ahead of the serving hand, so if you were to drop it, it would land right in front of your hitting shoulder and foot. The hitting hand and arm are drawn back from the ready position as the ball is tossed so the shoulder is extended back and abducted so the flexed elbow is slightly above the shoulder. The hand and wrist will be near the head. Ball contact is the next phase. As the ball is contacted, the server should transfer their weight from the back foot to the lead foot. The hitting arm's forward motion is initiated by the shoulder and elbow. By leading with the shoulder and elbow, it then brings the hand forward. The hitting arm swings around the glenohumeral joint, which is the shoulder joint, and mimics a throwing motion. With a float serve, you want to contact the ball with the proximal part of your palm. To get the correct float on the serve, once hitting the ball, your follow-through should be to freeze at the moment of contact and keep the wrist firm. In a recent study done by Kluka and Dunn in 1989, the ball is compressed at contact. The greater the compression, the greater the unpredictability of the flight path of the ball. If you contact the ball right through the center of mass with a great velocity, the ball should float properly. If we take a look at when you are taking that step to contact the ball, torque has a key role in this phase. Torque is the result of force acting on an object that causes the object to rotate. Torque is needed in the torso, hips, and shoulders to successfully serve to the opponent across the net. The greater amount of force that is applied to the ball will result in greater torque. Therefore, increasing the force will increase the amount of rotation. In order to serve the ball with power and speed over the net, torque is needed and rotation needs to occur. In order to improve on your float serve, the volleyball player must create a long lever. By doing this, greater distance between the axis of rotation, which is the glenohumeral joint, and the point of contact, which is the hand, will allow for higher rate of ball velocity. Therefore, we know that the longer the arm, the higher the chance for increasing the distance between the muscle and the joint, which will result in the arm being able to apply greater amount of torque on the ball. To get a good amount of torque, we want to draw our elbow back, which will then open the hips and torso and be able to rotate forward into the serve. Power is also an important part of volleyball. Maximum power is desired to have the most force behind a majority of the actions in volleyball, such as the float serve. Power is defined as a time rate at which work is done. Power increases when a given amount of work is performed in less time. By increasing power, the velocity of the ball will increase, making it more difficult for the opposing team to receive it. You can maximize your power by forcefully striking the volleyball with the palm of your hand. Your arm swing has the most effect on how much power the ball possesses. The faster you swing your arms, the more power the ball is going to have. Force is another concept involved in the biomechanics of the volleyball float serve. We know that force equals mass times acceleration. In order to accelerate the ball faster, a larger force must be applied to it. The momentum from our lower body needs to be transferred to our upper body in order for a greater force to be placed on the ball. During the movement of the volleyball serve, kinetic and potential energy are involved. Potential energy occurs during the serve when the ball is tossed up before contact and it is at the peak point. The higher the ball, the more potential energy and less kinetic energy it will have when falling. Kinetic energy occurs during the serve when the server contacts the ball. If the athlete has greater power and higher velocity when preparing to hit the volleyball, there will be a higher kinetic energy transferred to the ball. Newton's first law of inertia also comes into play when looking at the volleyball float serve. If the moment of inertia is large, an object is harder to rotate and more force is needed. It is important that the moment of inertia is small during the serve. When the elbow is flexed before hitting the ball, there is a decrease in the moment of inertia of the arm, which then leads to a faster angular velocity and a faster ball. With having an extended elbow instead of a flexed elbow, the moment of inertia is too large to produce a fast ball. Something that I found interesting and was totally oblivious to is that the position of the valve is actually a very important factor for float serves. It is important for the server to hit the volleyball sharply in line with its center of mass. If you do not, it will initiate rotation on the ball. The different positions of the valve determine the rotation of the ball. If the valve is on the server's right, then it may rotate downward and around the point between the center of mass and volume. This rotation may cause the ball to veer off to the right. If the valve is off to the server's left, it will do the exact opposite and rotate around that point and veer off to the left. If the valve is to the front of the ball, it may dip below the expected trajectory. On the other hand, if the valve is to the rear of the ball, you may exceed the expected trajectory and go out of bounds. The volleyball float serve, which initiates the play, is the only skill completely within the control of an individual player, and is the only skill that can be replicated on all occasions with no adjustments in technique. Successful serves can force opponents into a difficult attack position, reduce attack options, and enable the serving team to react more efficiently in setting up a defense. Therefore, it is important for a player to develop a style of serving that is error-free, yet creates sufficient reception difficulty for the opponents. Because the volleyball float serve is an overhead movement, it can come with injuries as well. Some injuries can be due to overuse. One common shoulder injury that can happen due to serving is a rotator cuff injury or tear. The rotator cuff is a group of muscles and tendons that surround the glenohumeral joint, keeping the head of the humerus bone in the glenoid fossa. The muscles of the rotator cuff include the subscapularis, infraspinatus, supraspinatus, and the teres minor muscle. Volleyball players repetitively use their shoulders in hitting, blocking, setting, as well as serving. Overuse of the rotator cuff muscles can then lead to rotator cuff tears. One way to help avoid a rotator cuff injury is to strengthen the smaller muscles of the shoulder. While I focused on the standing float serve, the jump float serve could add more velocity to the ball by getting more power from your lower body in your approach to contact the ball. Some injuries can include ACL injuries, which can happen from landing on one leg and having a sudden change of direction or torsion force. Ankle sprain, which can happen from coming down on the side of your foot, and either inversion or eversion of the ankle can happen. Patellar tendonitis, or jumper's knee, is another injury that can happen due to repetitive, forceful jumping activities. The movements in volleyball are a combination of strength, power, force, torque, agility, and skill. They are all such small movements that come together and help coordinate the act of serving. Due to all of the movements and biomechanics of volleyball, this does cause some risk in the performance of the movements, and not all ball contacts will be perfect. As they say, volleyball is a game of mistakes. You score points when a mistake is made. The float serve requires preparation, ball toss, ball contact, and follow-through. All of these steps come together to hit the ball in the proper manner. There are many muscles that are also involved to make this happen. Some of the muscles that are involved are the quadriceps, which are the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius. The hamstrings, which are made up of the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. The deltoids, triceps, biceps, and the multiple muscles that make up the hand and the forearm. So now that I have gone through the biomechanical analysis of the volleyball float serve, here are some elite players and their float serves.